In 2013 or 14, Vladimir Putin brought in a law which prohibited the teaching of or the promotion of non-traditional family values to anyone under the age of 18. It made it quite complex in Russia at the time. I was teaching in a university at the time in Russia, in the pedagogic university. And it made it complex because Sergey Assienin is really one of the main poets who is taught very early on in a child's schooling in Russia. Russian children are taught particularly a poem by Sergey Assienin about a tree. And everybody knows this poem. It's a lovely poem. I was very lucky because when I lived in Russia for a period of time, I lived literally in a flat which was built on the site where Sergey Assienin used to live, and indeed just outside my flat was a big plaque with a picture of the great poet Sergey Assienin, pointing out that this had been his home. I was very proud of that association. It was within spitting distance of the Kremlin. Sergey Assienin was gay, and although he had at one point married the American dancer Isadora Duncan, that marriage didn't last very long. He didn't speak English, she didn't speak Russian. They communicated apparently through some sort of interpreter from Czechoslovakia or something. And they had a tempestuous year together in Paris before she went down to Nice and was strangled by her scarf, and he went back to Russia where he killed himself. But he was apparently gay. And he's not the only Russian artist to be clearly gay. The other person who's particularly notable would be Tchaikovsky, the great musician. There were others, and there are others. And Mr. Putin is now planning, or indeed in the next day or so, his law is now being extended beyond school-leaving age to everybody in Russia. So the whole idea of LGBTQ plus is stamped firmly on the head. Non-traditional lifestyles, that is anything embraced by the LGBTQ plus banner, will be outlawed. So we think, what do we do with Sergey Uvarov or the Grand Duke Konstantin Konstantinovich? These are both significant writers during the time of the Tsar Nicholas I. Margarita Sharapova, Philip Wiegel, Sofia Parnok. The list can go on and on. If Russia wishes to invest in this sort of prejudice, then it's going to have to employ some quite high-powered censorship that will tear into historical writings and the visual and musical arts, because they are dominated by gay artists, gay creators, and their LGBTQ plus credentials are part of their identity. Now, I remember just before I left Moscow, there was some question about a film of Tchaikovsky, which I think was never screened. There was a play about Tchaikovsky. There was a ballet about Tchaikovsky which was actually presented. I saw it. It's quite interesting. There's an entire community that is now oppressed in Russia, an entire community, the LGBTQ plus community. And this law is now being pushed out. I remember meeting a toad of a man called Pyotr Tolstoy, the great-great-grandson of Lev Tolstoy, the man who wrote War and Peace. And he was bragging about various things, but he was very keen on the idea that the law which Putin had put out against gay propaganda, quote, was being ramped up at his encouragement to include the threat of between a 12 and 22-year time in prison. And I was supposed to be encouraged by this. Certainly not. I thought he was a bigot and a twit, quite apart from looking like a toad. And I don't think I've changed my mind. I'm deeply sorry that Russia is heading down such an aggressive path, but this is the price that is paid for tyranny. It's not only attacking other countries, it's attacking the heart of the nation, and it's attacking what is good to ensure control. Tyranny is about control, and today it's the control over who is and who is not espousing traditional values. Tomorrow it will be another form of control, but that control will continue and continue and continue, because it's like a visor. It's like the grip of an octopus's tentacles. I'm very sorry.